Now, alright, look, you can like what you like and you can hate what you hate. You're certainly entitled to your own opinion, but I am saying it, I am calling it officially right now. WWE SmackDown is a good show. Each and every week is interesting, it's got good characters, it's got the tribal chief, oh, Roman Reigns, I love you, we bow down to him. I am actually excited for Hell in a Cell because of SmackDown, and I'm excited about next Friday because of SmackDown. So while I've kind of given it away, we still need to go through the little individual bits and decide, does it get an up or does it get a down? And we do it using this, if you don't know. It's a finger of power, which yes, is just my hand. I don't know, came up with it one day and now it's just a thing. Let's up those downs. Right, quick little spin for you, because the first thing we saw on SmackDown as we were running down everything that was going to be on the show is that we are going to get the court case between The Miz and Otis. This is what I did. Why does WWE have to just crap all over the brand split? I know it doesn't matter and I know I care more than anyone, but it's like when you get sand in your ass crack. Is it a big deal? No. Does it annoy you? Yes. And would it get it down? You know it would. So down. Kevin Owens, who was out for the first proper segment of the show, even said the same thing. He was like, isn't it great? All our contractual obligations on our old brands are now done, which means we can celebrate the first ever Kevin Owens show on SmackDown. But look, his guest was Daniel Bryan. These two are just like pizza and ice cream, e.g. the greatest things of all time is get it up. And this was just a lovely way to make me feel all warm and fuzzy in my tum-tum, because not only did they have a lovely bit of a back and forth, but also Daniel Bryan once again went out of his way to say, look, we have some tremendous wrestlers on SmackDown. I think we should push all of them. It's not actually a mic in my hand. I think we should push all of them. And also, why don't we defend the Intercontinental Championship on TV every single week? I think that's a good idea, Daniel. Owens agreed and said that if we are going to start talking about championships, why don't we discuss the tag team titles? Because Kevin Owens would love to go after them and he'd love Daniel Bryan to be his partner. And without missing a beat, Daniel Bryan looked at him and said, yeah, that probably would have happened earlier than this, but you betray all your friends. He really does. Owens was then all like, we don't need to worry about that because I've already come up with our name. We can be Team Hell KO. And then I swear, Daniel Bryan just must be so happy to be back, because once again, without missing a beat, he was like, no, Kev, if you call yourself that, it means you'd be tagging with Kane. I think you've got the wrong point of that name. He is so damn good. And then, for absolutely no reason, Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode interrupted. Corey Graves on commentary even said, why, over and over again. And I was like, you damn right, Corey, you used my magic word. But it is true, these two goofs have absolutely sucked recently. I mean, they got back together and they've been in 2 matches and they just lose. This then all descended into WWE typical nonsense because the Street Profits were out and then Shinsuke Nakamura and Cesaro followed, and those two are mad. So like, who are you people? We have been keeping the tag team scene on Friday Nights alive, and now you all want a piece of a pie. As always, the Swiss Superman is right. He also said that Ford and Dawkins had just been handed the titles, and unfortunately, if only that was the case, that's what I'm calling Cesaro now, says, they weren't handed the titles, they switched with the New Day because the belts were different colours, honestly. Daniel then realised this would be a great opportunity to see how him and Kevin Owens would get on as a team, and they then teamed with the Street Profits to take on these 4 goofs. I will say this was far better when it was just Daniel Bryan and Kevin Owens firing zings at each other, but it was actually quite enjoyable overall. Thankfully, Adam Pearce was also shown to give some kind of justification why this bout would be made official, and honestly, what a rollicking good ride this was. Is getting an up. This should come as no surprise given who was involved, and seeing Daniel Bryan back in the ring was like giving birth to your first child. I presume I don't have any kids, but that's how joyous it made me. And of course, he got the first hot tag of the night after Montez Ford had been beaten up, and he just ran wild like a gazelle in a field. Once again, have I ever seen a gazelle in the field? No, but I hear it's as good as Daniel Bryan working a wrestling match. After he did try to run up the rope though, he tweaked his knee, which of course was part of the story, and that damn Cesaro was all over it as if it was a cup of coffee. If you don't know, Cesaro really likes coffee. As a bad analogy. It was then Dawkins who got another hot tag, and that made me chuckle because you could never do 2 hot tags in a match. The second one is always going to be lukewarm. And then we had, not the debut, but for the first time in a while, we had the tag team klaxon, which up to this point has kind of been exclusive to AEW. And if you don't know, every wrestler in the ring hears some kind of noise. It goes, and it means, hey, you can now all get in the ring and do your big moves, and no one's going to disqualify you, even though the referee has been disqualifying wrestlers for this over the past few weeks. Consistency. From there we saw stunners. Daniel Bryan did a big dive to the outside, and of course when Montez Ford hit that amazing frog splash, he connected with Cesaro, who always loses. 1, 2, 3, the faces won, but I tell you who the real winners were: we the fans. What a stupid cheesy thing to say, but it's true. This was just really fun, and honestly, if you were zipping through channels and you caught this, you may have just hung around. Give me more of this, thank you, please. We then had Law and Otis, which has to be the laziest spoof name I've ever heard in my life, because of course it was ripping on Law and Order. Now look, let's get this straight. Was this dumb? Yes. Was this ludicrous? Yes. Was this ridiculous? Yes. But was it surprisingly entertaining, mostly because Otis is just the hero of the day and the hero of all time? You bet your ass it was, and I am more than comfortable giving it up. There were some truly out of nowhere bizarre bits, because the bailiff was Ron Simmons and the judge was JBL, but I suppose if you're going to tell me, Simon, it was a rip on Wrestler's Court, and if you don't know, just Google it, well, you're likely correct. And that kind of sucked, but let's just not worry about it. Mrs. Lawyer tried to speak for him, but Miz was having none of that because his ego is so big. He decided he would just talk for himself. And when Otis responded, he was like, look, I can put all this to bed quite easily. I was in the Money in the Bank match. I won the Money in the Bank briefcase, and therefore it's mine. Mrs. Lawyer even went, he's not wrong. So Miz fired her. It was quite funny. We will have more of this later, but look, I tell you, this was wrestling goofiness on the right side of the tracks. Then Daniel Bryan again. Daniel Bryan, thank goodness he's back, because he, Kevin Owens and the Street Profits were all celebrating backstage when he just thrust his arm outwards and said, fist me guys. He knew what he was getting at. It looked like a school kid that just farted in a lesson and gotten away with it. I think I'm in love with Daniel Bryan. After all this fisting too, he got approached by Sami Zayn, who said, I don't know why you called me out earlier, but I ain't having none of it. And also, I'm not defending this championship on TV every week. You don't get to make that, and it's not gonna happen. And Dan was like, that's not what I said. I just thought it would be good for the television show, but Sami was having none of it. And now I'm kind of intrigued, because last week we teased Zayn versus Otis, now we're teasing Zayn versus Bryan. But that's okay no matter what direction you go in, because all these guys absolutely kick ass. Call me up and say, let's go. Bianca Belair was then taking on Zelina Vega. And while that kind of came out of nowhere, and the commentators were all like, oh, well, this is because of a Raw incident that happened back in 1346. I tell you, man, it was all right. Up. It was just a showcase for Belair to let you know that not only is she really strong, but she's also really athletic, and if we don't strap a rocket to her and send her to the moon, both literally and figuratively, then we don't know what we're doing. She won after the KOD, and honestly, she is a future women's champ. She can do it all. Lars Sullivan then beat Shorty G. Down. Shorty cut a promo beforehand saying that he hadn't been drafted to Raw or SmackDown, and he just looked like such a geek, it was unbelievable. And then, yeah, Lars came out, went, nah, as he does, hit him with the freak incident, or whatever it's called, and beat him for the 1, 2, 3. I'm sorry, I don't want to be that guy, but I just don't care. Thankfully, this was going somewhere, and that's getting it up. Because surprise, surprise, after being a walking biscuit in an Instagram post for the last few months, Chad Gable told Adam Pearce that he quit. But he wasn't quitting wrestling, and he wasn't quitting Raw, and he wasn't quitting SmackDown. He was quitting being Shorty G because it's a stupid gimmick, it's a stupid character, it didn't help him at all, and he is 100% right. He said he doesn't know what that was or why it happens, but what he does know is a guy that was not only a state champion, but was an Olympic champion, and his name was Gable, so finally, he's gone back to that. Honestly, this was like having an orgasm. No, it wasn't. I just meant it was satisfying. Now, Chad was great here, but you are allowed to be skeptical because Shorty G was meant to be his big push, and look how that went. But if you just let him do his thing in the ring, everybody is gonna get behind him because he's so damn good. Also, the character didn't make any sense. Oh, I'm Shorty G, and then there were people in the company shorter than him. That's me punching myself in the face because it makes me so mad. Between all of that, you also had an interview with Seth Rollins who said that Murphy is going to have his ass kicked later, which is probably going to be the case, and we had Roman Reigns mad at the dinner table and also told Paul Heyman to buzz off. And I was like, Paul, you better do it, he gone crazy. And then even more shock horror, Bayley and Sasha Banks were involved in a really good segment. I mean, who knew? Bayley explained she didn't sign the contract last week because Sasha Banks doesn't tell her what to do. Who the hell does she think she is? Well, Sasha clearly thinks she's somebody because these sheep came out with the contract and said, Bayley, sign it, you absolute moron, otherwise I'm going to beat you up. Belle said no, so Sasha Banks beat her up. Sasha stayed in control for most of this and actually managed to get the SmackDown Women's Champion's neck caught in a chair, and then she was like, right, you have a choice to make. And what a worse choice this was. You can either, like I say, sign the deal and finally have a match with me in a couple of days at Hell in a Cell, or I'll tear your head off. Now look, I get that things can be tough, but that one is a no-brainer. Sign the flipping contract. Unsurprisingly, Bayley actually thought, you know what, I better put pen to paper because I quite like having my head on my shoulders. So now it is official, and we are getting it at Hell in a Cell. And on the down low, I think it should be the main event. But these guys, they get their characters, they know what to do. It actually comes across like they do hate each other. And if they can smash it on Sunday, I tell you, it will be worth all the build, all the 4.5 years of nonsense. I am excited. We then had another segment for Law and Otis, and just take what I said earlier and paste it here. All of this was just a joy. Miz cross-examined John Morrison, which is the dumbest thing ever, because obviously John was hamming this up and pretending like it was the worst thing that ever happened. And also, we had Rey Mysterio on the stand. So, Rey Mysterio was an eyewitness. It's too easy. What do you want me to do with that? Obviously, he was on Otis's side, as was Oscar, I think, because she was brilliant too. She just turned up and screamed. And when JBL turned to the stenographer, I think that's what they're called, the stenographer, it just so happened to be Teddy Long who said, don't worry, JBL, I managed to write all that down. Then he made a tag team match player. Not true. Long story short though, after a bunch of extra stuff, which again ticked all the boxes, it was very easy to watch, Tucker said that Miz was a terrible person, and if he had it his way, he would beat him up until the end of days. Bradshaw agreed with all of this, and he ruled in Otis's favour because it's nice and simple. If you do win the Money in the Bank briefcase, you have a year to cash it in, so if Otis wants to take his time, he's absolutely allowed to do that. Then it happened. Just as we were wrapping up, Miz remembered that he had one last witness, and it was another briefcase full of money, and he bribed JBL. Bradshaw then said that he changed his mind, and he is going to decree that at Hell in a Cell, we're going to get the Miz versus Otis with the Money in the Bank briefcase on the line, meaning, of course, whoever wins is now Mr. Money in the Bank. Now, I have very many questions. One, why is JBL allowed to make all of these decisions? It didn't make any sense. And two, well, it's not a question, I just thought it was crap. What a rubbish way to make a matchup, and now I'm terrified that Otis is going to lose. Down. It finished, of course, with Simmons shouting, damn, because that's just what he do nowadays. I need to sit down and think about this, but this may be one of the stupidest reasons we've ever come up with this kind of stipulation, and then made it official for a pay-per-view. Seth Rollins then beat Murphy, though, and it absolutely rocked up. Leah Mysterio was watching from backstage, a really awkward angle because that's just what we do, and it tied into the story, and these two were just trying to kill each other. At one point, Murphy back body dropped Seth Rollins onto the announce table, and never forget, when the Australian gets going, he is such a good pro wrestler, I think sometimes we forget. Frey and Dominic were then shown halfway through backstage saying, Aaliyah, would you stop watching? She was like, go away, you absolute idiots, I don't want to talk to you right now. And then unfortunately, back in the ring, all of Murphy's momentum went down the toilet, because he hurt his shoulder. Rollins pounced on that, which made Aaliyah even more concerned, but really this was just the build to the finish. Even though Murphy got a few licks in, he just couldn't hold up his own power, or Seth himself, because of his shoulder. So Seth hit the curb stomp, or the stomp as we're calling it now, and he got the 1, 2, 3. But the finishing sequence here, once again, so damn smooth, like my stupid head. There was also a great bit in between this when Seth Rollins just went, "Rah!" right into Murphy's face like he was a lion or Braun Strowman. And because everybody in this feud is absolutely obsessed with kendo sticks, Seth Rollins went, well, I got a victory. Let me go and smash him with one of these flipping sticks. It led to Aaliyah begging Rey and Dominic to go out there and help her man. And do you know what Rey Mysterio said? He said no. What a terrible father figure you are. You'll go and help Otis, but when your own daughter, your own flesh and blood, asks for assistance, you say, nothing to do with me. Father of the Year, you are not. She, of course, then ran out there to do it herself, and who knows what Seth Rollins would have done if Dominic hadn't gone out there as well. I mean, to be fair, as soon as Rollins saw Dommy Boy, he attacked him, but then Ray finally realised what his responsibilities were, and he came to the ring and chased Seth off. Also, Ray came out to his entrance music here once again. It's all about you, Ray, isn't it? Unbelievable. Ray and Dominic were then yelling at Aaliyah, but she ignored all this and she went to Murphy's side and basically cradled him like, it's gonna be okay, my love, don't worry about it. I know some people are done with this story, and I've said bad things about it too. I think it's wonderful. I think it's great. It gets better each and every week. There's a thread, you know where we were, and hopefully you know where we're going. I think it's kind of fun. It was then our main event segment between Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, and just pick a word. Awesome, brilliant, excellent. Bag of chips, that one doesn't work. These two are just killing it. It's getting it up. Roman was about to speak when we cut back to that room we'd seen him in earlier, where it appeared Jey Uso now sat. He was wearing a mask. He was like, Roman, you crazy, you lost it. You don't know what you're saying anymore. But when he took this mask off, it wasn't Jey Uso, but it was Jimmy. And that was quite funny because he had to say, oh, by the way, it's me, Jimmy, because those two look so identical to each other, otherwise you wouldn't have known. It allowed Jey to appear from nowhere, and he absolutely walloped Roman. And while Reigns was kind of able to get a fight back, it ended when Jey super kicked him and hit the big splash and then went up to the top of the rampway where he celebrated with his brother as they just threw barbs at the tribal chief. I mean, these two are crazy, but my word, did this get you excited. Roman Reigns then got on the microphone and flipping Nora, where did he get all of this power? Because he said, look, maybe I will lose on Sunday, and maybe I won't be the head of the table, the tribal chief, and the universal champion anymore, but I'll be all right with it. I will find a way. But if you lose, Jey Uso, and now you too, Jimmy, because you snuck your nose in my business, when you lose, and when I make you say I quit, if you don't finally respect me, and if you don't finally say that everything I've been going on about is the truth, you are out of the dynasty, you are out of the family. That goes for your kids, that goes for your wives. Naomi must have been at home going, what did I do? I just got traded to Raw, and nobody will feature me, and that is it. You are done. Honestly, the way he said this, I think Roman Reigns means it. The Hell in a Cell then came down from the rafters, and for some reason Jey Uso decided to climb it as Michael Cole shouted, oh my gosh, Jey Uso's gonna be out of the family. And this is a proper main event feud with a guy that at the start of 2020, nobody would have called. Obviously, Jey Uso is gonna say I'm quit, but what's gonna happen after that? It's anybody's guess, and this is how you should feel going into something like Hell in a Cell. So yeah, like I said at the start of this video, SmackDown is a great wrestling show. It just is. You can disagree with me, that's fine, you're allowed, but I'm gonna disagree with you, and ultimately, I have the finger of power, and this episode is getting it up. Now, don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you thought about SmackDown. I will be intrigued. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Head over to WhatCulture.com, read yourself some articles, follow WhatCulture on Twitter, WhatCulture WWE, and watch more videos here on WhatCulture Wrestling. My name is Simon from WhatCulture, and we have a weekend for you. Obviously, we've just done Ups and Downs for SmackDown. Yesterday, we did it Retro Ups and Downs for Vengeance 2001. Check it out. Tomorrow, we're going to do Ups and Downs for Impact's Bound for Glory. And then on Monday, it's Ups and Downs for Hell in a Cell. And then I have to sleep. See ya.